Hey guys, what's up? It's Natasha and welcome back to today's video. Today I'll be discussing the 9 most popular romance book tropes that there are. This is basically a refresher for me and also to introduce tropes to those people who are just reading. I remember starting Book Talk and BookTube and all that, people were talking about tropes and I was like, what are you talking about? Because I've been reading for years and years, but I've never noticed the tropes or the themes, can you say? So I just thought I'd shed some light on what kind of different tropes there are. If you have any suggestions on one of these 9 tropes, feel free to comment down below. Before we get started, please remember to like the video and subscribe, and let's just get started. So essentially the first thing is, what is a trope? This is a plot device or a character attribute that is usually linked to the book and is commonly used in certain genres. Like the romance genre will have kinds of tropes and the fantasy romance will have different kinds of tropes. Sometimes they are the same, but oftentimes they are situated in only, let's say, the romance books. Now, the first one is the biggest one that everyone, I believe, knows about, is the love triangle. And it is basically what it entails. It is 3 people. 2 of the people are in love with person A, and person B and C are fighting for their affection. In the end, person B or C wins the affection of person A, and the other person is left out of the equation. That is essentially what it is. Because it's Valentine's month, I wanted to include like romance books, and my brain can't think of anything. I believe it happened one summer. I've never read those books, but the characters, you know, like there's a love triangle going on there. So yeah. The next one is a secret billionaire trope, and this essentially is about say a guy or girl who's a billionaire and they are tired of this lavish lifestyle and they go undercover, can you say, to see if people find them as normal people. Usually these people are very well known in the community, and the person that they fall in love with tends to not know what social media is or doesn't follow them. They're not part of this trend. They're not part of the whole, I don't know, the bigger picture of it. They don't care about this person. So essentially they'll not know that this person is famous. Usually at the beginning when they meet, the rich person is offended that the common person, can you say, doesn't know who they are. But then they also like this attribute because it gives them like a fresh perspective. Not everyone knows who I am, so I feel loved, kind of thing. I don't read secret billionaire books, so I did some research and I found that Bare to You is a secret millionaire romance. I don't know, so I can't specifically say, but if you have any suggestions, pop them down below in the comments. The next one is Friends to Lovers, and which is by far my favorite, and it is basically 2 people who have been friends for a long time fall in love, or 2 people who have recently met and decide to be friends and then they fall in love. Usually they end up bonding and have extreme sexual tension between the 2, but in case of not spoiling the friendship, they don't go forward with the plans to actually date one another. So there's always this banter between should I, shouldn't I, should I, shouldn't I? And in the end, obviously they do, and they realize, oh, but I love him, and oh, I love her. Essentially, the readers always swoon or root for them, you know, like this is the go-to couple to be in the romance book. So, and the most recent book I read with Friends to Lovers is Secretly Yours by Tessa Bailey. The 4th trope is Stuck Together, and this is basically, actually I like this trope as well. It's basically the 2 characters who are stuck together either in an office or they get snowed in at a cabin or an arranged marriage, and essentially they don't like each other but they also don't despise each other. It's this forced proximity between the 2, and they're just like bantering between I don't like him but he's cute, or I don't like her but she's funny so I'm starting to like them. And then once the story progresses, they tend to either fall out of contact and then eventually they come back together and then they realize, oh, I love this person, kind of thing. Drama usually ensues in this trope. Very escalated drama that wasn't always needed, but it's there for the purpose of insinuating that these 2 are actually meant to be together. And the book that has this trope is From Look Off With Love by Mariana Zapata. The next trope is also one of my favorites, and is Enemies to Lovers, and this is basically about 2 people who despise each other. Usually it's one person, the main character, who despises the other person, and they think the other person despises them, and that creates a whole drama situation there, and then we all end up realizing that the other person never does like them, you know, they actually love them. But they make each other's lives a living hell, and usually they end up sorting their differences, which is usually stupid differences. Looking at you, Spanish love deception. And yeah, that is basically what the thing is. They end up sorting out the differences and then they fall in love. The other one I also know is Love on the Brain by Annie Hazelwood, that has this trope. Then number 6 is the forbidden love trope. These are two characters who aren't allowed to date, to marry, to whatever, due to political differences, due to family feuds. They're usually opposites. Like, for example, Bella from Twilight, she's a human, Edward's vampire, so they can't be together. Eventually they find the chance to love each other for their differences, and that makes it a whole lot sweeter. The most recent book I read about that is also kind of it's also a fantasy, and it's A Forbidden Fate by Kevin Herning. It is the epiphany of forbidden love, enemies to lovers. I have high praise about that book. The 7th trope is second chance. And I won't say I like this trope, but I also don't like it. In a sense, I don't know, there's just something about you already broke up with this person, so why would you go back to them? But I know a lot of people like this trope. Essentially, this is, say for example, a married couple who split up and they don't want anything to do with each other until their child has to do something and they are forced together, or they have to do something together, and then they realize that maybe, you know, they are meant for each other. Maybe that was just a stupid thing they broke up about. It also can entail, and I didn't know this, I'm sure a lot of people knew this, but I didn't, second chances also, say for example, person A and person B split up, person A finds person C, and this is kind of like their second chance to romance, to finding love. The book that reminds me a lot about that is The Dead Romantics, and I also saw Gabby from Gabby Reed's reading Before I Let Her Go by Kennedy Ryan, which is also a very heavy second chance romance book. The 8th book is essentially also one of my favorites, and it's Soulmates. These two characters are just meant to be together. It is basically what it says. They are meant to be together. No matter what the difference is they are destined to be together. And the issue with this trope is they are usually driven apart after realizing that they love each other, and they don't get to be with one another up until way in the end of the book. Usually they are driven apart by a horrible misunderstanding or stupid misunderstandings and natural disasters, which I don't know. I kind of like more the natural disaster aspect than a misunderstood aspect, because, you know, if there was a miscommunication, listen, just talk it out. Don't be grumpy with him or her because she said X, Y, and Z. You know, I'm sorry also if you can hear the rain, it's getting pretty loud. An example of this is The Princess Bride. Didn't know there was a book, but apparently there is, so there you go. I can't think of another one. And the last trope on my list is by far my top tier favorite tropes, and it is the fake relationship trope. There's just something about it that just, I don't know, I get all giddy. But essentially what this is two characters are stuck in a situation where they have to ask the other character to fake date them, just for like a period. And during this period, one of the characters usually says, okay, let's go on a date to get to know each other. And through this date, most of the time the characters fall in love with each other, but they don't say anything about it. And then there's this whole escalation of a thing, and then they break up, and then they don't speak with one another for like a few weeks, and then they realize no, but they love each other, and then they come back to one another. An example of the fake relationship trope is The Spanish Love Deception by Elena Armas. So yeah, that is going to be it for this video. If you have any other tropes, feel free to comment them down below. I might not know about them, or I just missed them. And yeah, I'll see you guys in a video next week. Bye!